no. Oh, Jesus. God. That's how we're gonna open the video, I think. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily and welcome to the Slow Readers Club. It's been a while since I've recorded. I don't know, I just haven't really felt like picking up the camera. I've just kind of been living my life. And also, February wasn't really a very eventful month. It was just a lot of my actual day job taking over, and then, you know, a lot of bad things have been happening in the world. So I've just been wanting to do other things that help me escape, like playing a lot of Baldur's Gate 3 or watching a lot of MasterChef Canada. That has pulled me in by the throat, and I watched like 3 seasons of it within a span of like 4 days. So, you know, it's been great. But in the month of February, I did read some things, and I also wanted to include the book that I just finished, even though it was within the first week of March. I just thought I would throw it in because then I would only be talking about 2 books this video. So I thought I would include that. And it was actually my first 5-star read of the year. Other than Oathbringer, but I always give Brandon Sanderson 5 stars. It's just a given. But this was my first literary fiction 5 stars that I'd given in a very long time. But let's just go ahead and get into the books that I read in February / beginning of March. So as you know, I have been reading through the Heroes of Olympus series, and last month I read The House of Hades, which is the 4th book in the series. This book, you know, it took me a little bit to get into. And it's not that it's bad, I think I just kind of burnt myself out from reading them. I jumped from the 3rd book immediately into the 4th book. And the thing with Rick Riordan, I love him, he'll always have such a special place in my heart, but his books follow a very specific outline. You know, they find out about a specific prophecy or quest that they have to go on, and then the whole book is the journey throughout to try to get to this end point, and that this book is no different. I just want to double check if I'm recording. Yes, okay. Sorry, I just need to double check if I'm recording. I have recorded full long talks and never hit record, so you know, it is what it is. But this book is no different than the other books that he's written, especially Percy Jackson, the original series. And this book, you know, it's not that it's bad. I loved it. I enjoyed it. I gave it like 3.75, I think, or like 4 stars. I will always love these characters. These characters will mean so much to me for the rest of my life. Percy and Annabeth are ride or die. I truly believe that they are the only fictional characters that got together as kids that I think would last forever, because they just accept each other for who they are and they love each other. I don't know, I think that they would last forever. You do get a lot more character development in this book too, but since you're getting the perspective of really every single character, and at this point there's 7 on the quest. It's Percy, Annabeth, Jason, Piper, Hazel, Leo, and Frank. It's a lot of people to get their own perspective and feel like you're getting enough time with them. I think that was kind of been my issue with this series, is that I feel like I don't get enough time with each character, or the characters I do get a lot of time with, I'm kind of like, oh, but I don't want to read about you right now, you know? So enjoyed it. I will love it, but I am taking a break from this series. I think I'm gonna maybe continue it on later on this year. I just needed a little bit of a Rick Riordan break. I needed to miss the character so that I can read the last book in the series and really throw myself into it instead of feeling like, okay, obligation, I have to finish the last book. I want to feel like, oh my god, this is the end of their journey. I want to go back to them and experience the final climax of this story full-heartedly. Conclusion, I enjoyed it. I need a little bit of a break. So that was this book. Like I said, after that book, I just needed a little bit of a palate cleanser. So I got more into literary fiction. So the next book that I read is Scarborough. All of the books that I've read this month have been on my physical TBR. So I'm very proud of myself that I've really been trying to stick to my physical TBR, and I've gotten through quite a few of them. And Scarborough was one of the biggest ones on my list. I thrifted this last year, And this book is about Toronto, a very specific neighborhood in Toronto called Scarborough. It is a lower income area, and this book follows different people who live in that neighborhood, spanning from the children that live there, their parents, the teachers, the caregivers. So you get a lot of different perspectives in this book. It is quite short. I finished it, I think, between like 2 days, and it really just took my heart. This book was such a delight to read and very eye-opening to get a view into a world that I am not a part of. I don't live in Scarborough. That's on the far, far east end of the city. I'm pretty centralized in downtown and Old Town Toronto. This is a whole world that I don't know, even though I live in the same city, and it's very different. So you're following 3 kids who go to this program that happens before school, and it usually gives free breakfast. You can also keep your kids there throughout the day for some free childcare. So you're following these 3 kids. One is an indigenous girl, another is a Filipino boy who's discovering that he might be homosexual, and then the last one is a white girl whose father was a skinhead, which, if you know what a skinhead is, they are a white supremacist group. And how in this neighborhood that is so diverse, this young girl, even though her father is pushing these notions onto her, is seeing the beauty of this neighborhood. And then something very tragic happens in the book, and the neighborhood has to come together to mourn what happened, but also to move forward and realize that there's more that they can give, I guess. I don't know if that makes any sense. Really, I really enjoyed this book. If you are curious about it, I highly recommend picking it up. Like I said, it's very, very short. I gave this again like a 3.75. That's usually like my standard rating of a book that I really enjoyed. It didn't like knock my socks off, but I really enjoyed it. After I finished reading this book, I watched the movie. When I was younger, I loved being in those like extracurricular classes called film as literature, and you would read the book and then you would watch the movie and then you would do a compare and contrast sheet. I love doing that, especially since like after high school it kind of just like stayed with me. I would have my book and then I would watch the movie, and then I would have a little paper that literally had to compare, like a T chart, and I would have the compare and the contrast parts of it, and I would compare how the book was different from the movie, how they were similar, were the changes that were made a good thing, a bad thing. I don't do that religiously anymore, but in my head I take notice of what's different and I just enjoy it. But the movie was really good. It breathed even more life into the characters, and I don't know, if you're ever interested in reading this book or watching the movie, I highly recommend it. Canadian content is very important, and hearing our stories and seeing our world being represented is very important to me. So yeah, highly recommend Scarborough. Very good. So those were the only 2 books that I read in February. I read them in the beginning of the month, and then for 3 weeks I didn't pick up anything to read. I mean, I read like bits here and there, but I wasn't like really drawn into a book until I picked up Demon Copperhead. This was a little bit of a slow start for me. This book is a retelling of David Copperfield in a very specific time period. It's more of a modern take. My cat's about to rub his face on my tripod. Don't do that. No. Move. Shoo. It's set in a more modern time, but it's still a little bit older. So it's like, and this is saying as someone who was born in 1996, like, it's not that old. But it's set between the late 1990s and the early 2000s in Kentucky, in Lee County. And you're following Demon as he goes through his childhood through poverty, foster care, drug addiction, and this book really caught me by surprise. I had heard it was amazing, but it does take a little bit to get into. And it's definitely one of those books, like either you love it or you hate it. I loved this book so much. This book, once you get past the way that the book is written, it just takes some time to understand how to get the voice of the narrator right, because it is Demon narrating this story and it's very much in hindsight. That's like one of my favorite perspectives in books, where it's written in the first person but after the fact. So you're almost, as this person is telling you the story, you can understand that they're like, they know better because they've already been through it. So I really love that kind of storytelling. And this book, especially because it talks a lot about the opioid crisis and how it was, these little tiny seeds were planted in these areas of poverty, that this new drug was being promised to help you with your pain. And especially in a place like where this book is set, it was a coal mining town, and a lot of people, you know, had a lot of injuries from coal mining, so they have long-term chronic pain. And then here comes this new drug that's being promised is going to take away your pain, but it's not addictive, which is obviously a lie, as we know now. But seeing how it was just fed through and not understanding how dangerous this drug was, it really hit home for me, because I was a victim of the opioid crisis through a very close family member of mine. And it's really hard seeing someone that you've known your entire life completely change because this drug took them away from you. Yeah, and this book does such a great job with showing how easily it was accessible to people, how it was pushed towards people. And I loved this book. And that's not even like, that's just one part of it. Demon as a character is probably going to be one of my favorite characters of all time. He will stay with me forever. I loved him so much. And what I loved about this book is that you felt like he was walking hand in hand with you as he was leading you through his life. And we're both trying to figure out how he ended up the way that he was. You know, later on in the story, spoiler, he does become addicted. Seeing it like through the outsider's perspective alongside him as the outsider as well, that at the very end of the book, thank God, there is kind of a happy ending where he does try to become sober. And the whole time I was reading it, I was like, please let there be a happy ending. Please let there be a happy ending. I'm begging you, I need him to be happy at the end of this, because he's just been through so much. Man, my reviews are really just me ranting about and just like word vomiting why I like this book, and I don't even know if it's like a coherent thought. But so much happens in this book that it really treads the line of misery porn, which I feel like a lot of stories can lead really too far into that, when like, especially when they're dealing with things like poverty, disability, addiction. And I don't know, like a lot happens in this book, but for me, I never felt like it was too much. Like, there were definitely times when I would like have to take a break from reading because I was just like, damn, that's a lot. That's so much has happened. But I just wanted to keep going because I needed to know if something better happens. And thankfully at the very end, it kind of leaves off on a open-ended note that almost like you caught up with life with him. There's no more hindsight anymore. He's just going to keep living his life. Maybe you'll see him again, but who knows? I don't know if that made any sense, but I love this book. This book was 5 stars. An easy 5 stars for me, and I honestly can't wait to read this again and again and again and again. These characters and this story will stick with me for so long. I almost have a little bit of a reading hangover after this book just because it was so amazing. And yeah, I loved it. I loved it so much. But yeah, those were the books that I read in February and March. I highly recommend some of them, most of them. Definitely Demon. If you're ever been interested in reading Demon Copperhead, I highly recommend that you do. It's very, very, very worth it. Very worth it. And if you love sad books, this is the book for you. Genuinely the book for you. And now I'm kind of just unsure of what I'm gonna read next. Do I go into the Stormlight Archive again? Do I keep going with literary fiction? Do I pick up a different fantasy novel? I have literally no idea what I'm gonna read next. But this is the Slow Readers Club. There's no rush, so I can take my time figuring out what I want to read. But until then, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you want to. If anything, I'm just really happy that you watched this video. Thanks for making it to the end. And yeah, all right, bye guys.